Well, NBL1 action is back right around the country, and so are we, covering every angle. Hello and welcome to the NBL1 show, thanks to Coles Express. I'm Megan Hustwaite, and welcome to our new look show in 2023. This year, we've decided to change things up, and we will be going to the heart of the action in the 5 conferences right around the country. We'll be speaking to experts on the ground about what's happening in every conference, and we'll have plenty of interviews with the big names right around Australia too. Well, we're a few rounds underway in several conferences, so let's crack straight into it.
We are the best here in the West, and until the national championships later in the year, we can hold that crown. But excited, obviously, with the NBL done and dusted and the WNBL. It's been nice to sort of have that grassroots basketball starting and some really exciting, bizarre finishes, half-court shots that didn't count. And then we're sort of seeing the emergence of some really exceptional talent from abroad. The thing that I saw this week, especially from the men's side, was a really dominant 2 wins from the Rockingham Flames, obviously last year's NBL1 West champions.
Their coach Ryan Petrick said they're going to be even better this year, which is a frightening claim, but the first weekend shows that they may just be on that track.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Meg, because I was part of that team last year, so I'm a little bit insulted when my old coach did say that they were going to be better. They brought in an import who had a sensational first 2 games, Devondrick Walker. Speaking to the guys, Tom Jervis didn't join the team for, I guess, pre-season until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so I definitely had some concerns, but for them to go 2-0 was definitely pleasing in that regard.
So some big pre-season expectations on Coburn, but they didn't come through at the weekend.
No, unfortunately not. I think Courtney Alexander, the G League signing, disappointing performance. I mean, we can only go from 1 round, but definitely not alarm bells. Like, it's week 1. The matchup against Willerton Tigers, a traditional rival, to go down by 40 points on your home court, you sort of look at that a bit perplexed. But whether Courtney Alexander comes in with the G League and sort of underestimates what that looks like and not disrespects the league, but this is quality basketball across not just the NBL1 West, across Australia. And so I think they're watching the game, intensity and demeanour was certainly lacking, and I think they'll rebound this week.
Strong starts for some of the other powerhouse clubs in NBL1 West. Greg, tell us a bit about that and where you're expecting them.
They're traditional powerhouses, and Geraldton against a team that's going to struggle throughout the year, which is the Bunbury Slammers. Emphatic win, though, 60 points. The signing of Zach Katorna, that's exciting, and he was sensational. But I thought the return of Aaron Ralph, who is a cult figure down at that club, and was celebrated. They had a huge win, and that's what you need to do against those quality teams, especially early in the year. I'm excited to see Daniel Alexander signing in the off-season and what he's able to provide them. But the other player who was sensational throughout the weekend was Mitch Clark, previous Wildcats development player, played, I believe, for Bendigo last year. He averaged 16, 6 and 6 over the weekend.
Now, it's always a massive coup when an Olympian takes to the floor in NBL1, but in NBL1 West, it is a comeback of sorts for the great Mark Worthington. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, look, obviously I'm a bit of a sucker for storylines and what that looked like. And yeah, Mark Worthington returned at the ripe old age of, maybe young age of 40. Only had 6 and 3 on the Friday night against Rockingham, but then 10 and 6 against Coburn. But for me, it was just that leadership, physicality. He definitely made his presence known. And speaking to a member of the staff of Coburn and spoke about him, he just said that was the difference. Like, he set the tone. And that's what they need. They've got Willerton have some vets, but some young guys, and I think he'll do wonders for that club. You're not expecting to put up massive numbers, but I think he'll certainly make his impact. But as a sucker of a guy that comes back in there, I'm just waiting for the day that Sean Redditch announces his return, and they can go head to head for one game and see who gets injured first. But now it's good to see Werver on the court.
We'll have to dedicate a whole show to that, Greg, should that happen. But we love that players from all walks of the game can make their comeback to the sport in NBL1. We saw it with the GOAT, Lauren Jackson, in Albury-Wodonga in NBL1 East last year. Maybe Wertho mightn't go on to a World Cup after this like LJ, but it's wonderful that we are, a safe place and a happy court and playing ground for players to come back to the game no matter what their scenario is. Now, you mentioned some of them, but let's finish up with some of your players of the week for the men's comp.
I think you can't go by Devondrick Walker, 2-0, both games, over 30 points. In the fourth quarter, if anyone wants to sort of look at a dominant performance, turn on the fourth quarter against Willerton and the Rockingham Flames in the KO game of the week, and he scored 14 points in a row. And you sort of marvel at that. At times, I look at that talent in the league and I go, this is how much that's grown. And then Gordak Gak for the Willerton Tigers, 22 and 15 on Friday, and then a pretty solid performance in limited minutes against Cockburn again. Obviously, there's rumoured that he's going to be a Perth Wildcat signing. John Riley was there at the game on Friday night, and so he's going to definitely be someone to watch, and will go, I think, with a close to the MVP race as well, alongside Devondrick Walker.
Let's change our focus now to NBL1 West women's action in round one, and we're going to start with an East theme with Eastern Suns and also East Perth.
Yeah, really pleasing effort. Tim Radulik, who is, I think, in his second year at the Eastern Suns. Great start for them. Going 1-0, that's a team that sort of been thereabouts for the last couple of years, but have always struggled. But for them to get a huge win, against Stirling Senators, and as I mentioned at the start of our chat, under, I guess, unique and controversial circumstances, Clinch Hoykard hits the shot from half court. Their celebration, jubilation, everyone's going absolutely bonkers. It's actually pretty sort of amusing scenes to watch, only for it to be ruled out. And I've watched back the clip 25, 30 times. The refs made the right call. There's no controversy about it, whether it just left the fingertips. It's clear that it didn't make, time expired. So, great start. Natalie Cho from UCLA, an import signing. I wouldn't be surprised if the play of her has a little bit more eyes on her throughout the season for the next upcoming WNBL season. Like UCLA, that's a powerhouse team. And then East Perth Eagles. Look, that's been a club for a significant period of time that have struggled in the women's competition. And for them to get a win against Perry Lakes on their home court in the first round, in a 1-point win, was huge. And so getting that was, I think, gives them a world of confidence. They've obviously recruited two sensational players, Sam Lupke, who came from the Willerton Tigers, and then Torreson, who's a Canadian import. So, but they both had fantastic games, and they're going to both need them to fire in the season to get upcoming wins.
Really looking forward to seeing what Natalie can produce as an import. You mentioned WNBL, and Robbie Ryan is the perfect example of what an NBL1 West campaign can do to elevate you into a rookie season in the WNBL. So I think watch this space on that one. Now, Tyrone Thwaites has been busy on the tools building his team. Tell us about the start that they got off to at the weekend.
Not only running an organisation and doing everything and trying to build and renovate a stadium, the great man. No, he's recruited exceptionally well in the off season, and I think they've continued to grow not only as a club but for that women's side over the last couple of years, getting to the semi-finals last year. But massive result against their rivals, against the Willerton Tigers. Willerton obviously missing a few players, and watch this space for talking about quality players. Sam Whitcomb will come in for a couple of guest appearances before she jets back off to the WNBA, which is incredible and shows how much we love our sport. But a 40-point win again for them, and he had Jewel Williams, Jesse Edwards, really good. And then you're bringing in Paddy Brosman, who was an import for the Rockingham Flames last year. I think she put up a 50-point game. So, look, I think in these first parts where you're still sort of figuring out where you're at as a side and what does that off-season look like, a pretty emphatic sort of result to be like, hey, we're stamping our authority on this league and they can only go on and up. So, well done to Tyrone and as that club continues to grow.
It was an emphatic weekend for Rocky, but not for the right reasons. Tell me a little bit about that, because there were big expectations on them heading into this campaign.
To be completely honest, them going down to Joondalup isn't a result that you're looking at. That's obviously the NBL1 Grand Finals from last year. But But I think the result against Willerton they would look back at, and hopefully doesn't hurt them in the back end of the season with Willerton missing a couple of their players. Obviously, Perth Lynx guard Talia Burrows had a fantastic weekend, but they recruited a lot, and I think even, which is sort of disregarded in some ways, super coach Rob Beveridge is an assistant coach of that club, at that team, and obviously gives a wealth of wisdom to the head coach, Tom Knowles there. So I think they would look back and go, geez, 0-2. They had a home game, and then that game against Willerton. And so last year, definitely not the result that they wanted. That's a proud side. Obviously, Ryan Petrick used to be the women's head coach there. Keegan Crawford, current Walker's assistant, won a championship with that team there as well. If there is anything, and alarm bells, like if they drop a couple more, it certainly would be ringing soon, because that's a proud organisation, and they expect results, and as do the fans. So 0-2, not definitely the start that they wanted.
Greg, let's finish off with your players of the week in NBL1 West Women.
Robbie Ryan, what a first round. 31, 5-5 for the Joondalup Wolves, and a big win against Rockingham Flames. I think the Perth Lynx would be hoping that she sort of slows down a little bit, because at one point, she was an import. Is she good enough? And I no doubt, I do believe that if her strong play continues, she'll definitely increase her price tag. So she had a sensational first up game. Mentioned it before with that half court heave. Clinch Hoycard 19-19 for that first game. They only played one game of the weekend. Alex Sharp, Willerton Tiger, had 17 and 14. I think 2 double-doubles over the weekend. So I think this is a big, I guess, off-season or period for Alex, in terms of where does she want to go with the Perth Lynx. There's obviously a lot of roster likelihood of turnover and whatnot. And I think for her, she's got to really be dominant in terms of what she wants to do and really go with that. So her setting the tone this weekend, that would be my 3 players, with Robbie Ryan the absolute standout in her first game.
Great start for Sharpie, and as you mentioned, Robbie Ryan, to have the season that she did in NBL1 West last year, and just the improvement over her WNBL campaign was huge. But this competition is huge for players that are in the WNBL or NBL or aspiring to be. So there's so many subplots that we love along the way. Love chatting with you, Greg. Can't wait to do it every week. Thanks so much for the round 1 wrap up. Enjoy the weekend's action, and we'll see you next week.
My absolute pleasure, Meg. Looking forward to it.
Both grand finalists still looking for their first win of the season after the first 2 rounds. The NBL1 North, we put out some power rankings. Both Townsville and Logan were at the top of those power rankings. Obviously, both teams not at full strength through 2 rounds, but surprised to see both of them still looking for a win after round 2.
What about Rockhampton? Tell us what's going on there.
Rockhampton has got off to an excellent start, 2-0 and 2 really solid wins. They brought back Lara McSpadden, who had a great game in round 2, and Sam Bowman, who is with them for the first time this season, has had an excellent start to the season. Rockhampton at 2-0, probably a bit of a surprise, probably to everybody outside of Rocky.
Now, Michaela Roof is coming off a WNBL championship with the Townsville Fire. She was a real unsung hero for them throughout the grand final series, and she's been a powerhouse for Logan. Can someone knock her off when it comes to the defensive work in NBL1 North?
I'm not going to put my money on anyone knocking her off that pedestal of the rebound champion. She has been dominant on the glass our entire career up north. I wouldn't be surprised to see her winning that rebounding title yet again. So far, though, early in the season, we've got 2 players averaging 20 rebounds a game through 2 rounds. Michaela, not one of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's up there at the end of the season.
Yeah, she is a dominant force on the defensive end, that's for sure. Let's move on to the Northside Wizards, because it's been a magical start.
It's been a great start. They recruited extremely, extremely well, led by Tiana Mangakahia. She was actually away this past weekend, but Courtney Woods came into the group, and obviously coming off that WNBL championship, that experience and that season really carried over into her debut with the Wizards. The Wizards are sitting pretty at the top of the ladder, and a lot of people I spoke to in the preseason predicted they'd be there, and it's good to see them start the season off well, because there are championship aspirations for them.
Let's talk about the Gold Coast Rollers because they have got one star in particular who started the season very hot. She's rolling.
Ariana Moore has been amazing for Gold Coast. We had her in the game of the week in round one. She had a massive double-double. And what's most impressive, she's a point guard, but she's doing a lot of work in the paint, rebounding the ball, getting her teammates involved. And that's really what this Rollers group needed. They needed someone to create shots for themselves, but also to get the rest of the team involved. And Ariana Moore has done an amazing job of that so far through 2 rounds.
There are a stack of WNBL athletes in NBL1 North this season. Tell us maybe how many and who else we can look out for.
There is a lot of talent. There's 17 WNBL players in NBL1 North at the moment. We're missing one of the top players at the moment, Steph Reed. She's with the camp. She's playing in the Australia camp at the moment, and she'll be a big difference maker, obviously, for Townsville when they get her back in the group. Obviously, we mentioned Tiana Mangakahia, Kate Gaze. We've got players who have played WNBL in the past. There is talent across the board. Michaela Roof in Logan. There is just that much talent up here. It really is super impressive, and it's one of the reasons why the league is so competitive.
Yeah, it's so true. Speaking of talent, let's move over to the men's side of action now. And Isaac White has begun the season in white-hot form.
He is absolutely on fire. He talked about the move to Mackay around wanting some more responsibility and being the man. He has been the man for Mackay. He's averaging around 40 points on over 50% shooting. He had 40 points in round one in a Mackay win. He had 34 points in a round two win. He is absolutely on fire at the moment.
So with the Gold Coast last season, we followed their campaign very closely on the NBL1 show in 2022, and they've raised the banner.
They raised the banner. They had a really good win in round one. Then they went home and raised the championship banner. It is a great, great honor for Gold Coast. I know they've wanted that championship banner hanging there for a long time. They certainly earned it last season. They're going to have some work to do to defend it because they're going to take every team's best shot. And they did that on the weekend, dropping a tough one to Ipswich. But the Rollers are going to be in there, led by Jason Cadee. They'll get Tanner Krebs back. And I hear some rumors that there might be some more reinforcements on the way.
Oh, it's going to be super interesting. You mentioned some of them just then, but let's talk about the NBL talent on show in NBL1 North this season. Have we got a player count and some of the other faces that we can look out for on court?
We're approaching around 30 NBL players or players with NBL experience. It's absolutely staggering. You look at Ipswich, we just mentioned them. Nathan Sobey's there. They've got Deng. They've got the Galloway brothers. We talked about Jason Cadee and Tanner Krebs at Gold Coast. You look at Northside Wizards with Kyle Zunick, as well as Andrew White III, as well as Luol Deng. I mean, there is NBL talent across the board. You look up north in Cairns, obviously the Marlins benefit from the association with the Taipans as well. So pretty much across the board, you're going to see players in the NBL or with NBL experience in NBL1 North.
And finally, John, some of the teams touted to have strong years contending for the championship have begun the season on a winning note. Can you finish up with that and take us through some of your top contenders for the title?
Well, at the moment, we just mentioned Ipswich, and they obviously have the talent across the board. They've started off really well, and that win against the Gold Coast was huge for them. Mackay as well started really strong. They're at 2-0, and the team that a lot of people didn't really talk about because they don't have that big NBL name at the moment with them, but the Sunshine Coast Phoenix have started off really well at 2-0. It's really anyone's competition. I think Northside also will be there at the end. I think Darwin is a team to look out for. I think there are a good handful of teams that can win the championship this year, which makes it super exciting for us in the commentary and, of course, the fans.
Absolutely. The Phoenix are rising, and perhaps it might be a strength for them, a card that they can play that they don't have a big NBL name, but they are relying on a very talented roster. John, thanks so much for joining us on the NBL1 show. We look forward to your weekly reports from up north.
Thanks, Megan. See you.
Welcome, Jacinta. You are 4 rounds into your season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Megan. It's really an honour to represent NBL1 East for 2023. And you are right, we are already 4 rounds down because our season started a little bit before the likes of the rest of the NBL1 competition.
Well, Jacinta, let's start with the NBL1 East women's action because there's been some massive stat lines.
Yeah, huge stat lines for all 4 rounds, to be fair, but particularly in round 4, we had the likes of Sarah Matthews from the Central Coast Crusaders putting up 37 points and 10 rebounds in a win over the Penrith Panthers. And that stat line included 9 from 17 three-pointers, so shooting 53% from the arc. And we also had Emma Mahadi from the Albury Wodonga Bandits with 35 points and 20 rebounds versus the Inner West Bulls in a game that was tough for the Bandits because the Inner West Bulls have bolstered their roster with the likes of Leilani Mitchell and Michaela Domkins, but also the Bandits were down on numbers. They only had 7 players for that game, so Mahadi really putting the team on her back and getting over the finish line for them. And then, of course, the jewel of the Newcastle Falcons, that is Nicole Munger. She had 25 points and 23 rebounds versus the Hills Hornets in an away game in a really close contest, which probably wasn't as expected, but Nicole made sure that her team got the win.
We spoke to Greg Heyer when we went west for NBL1 West and spoke about Robbie Ryan and the incredible story she continues to be coming from NBL1 into WNBL. It's the same for someone like Nicole Munger, who's been an incredible story, Newcastle, but also the UC Capitals. So very much looking forward to seeing what she can continue to produce this season. We love a family tie though, don't we, Jacinta? And there were some of those on show at the weekend. Very strong ones.
Very strong. And I have to say, it's probably an NBL1 record thus far, even though the NBL1 in itself is still in its infancy. But in the game against the Central Coast Crusaders and the Penrith Panthers, there were 4 sets of sisters in one game. So we had Tiana and Sienna Pedersen from the Penrith Panthers. We had Jasmine and Paris Forcadilla, and Paris is now Witwer from the Central Coast Crusaders. We also had Emma and Katie Bailey, who are making their NBL1 East debut for the Central Coast Crusaders. And then we had the split of Sarah Matthews with Emily Matthews, a Crusader and a Panther respectively. So 4 sets of sisters in one game was certainly unheard of.
That is incredible. Loved your content you posted around it at the weekend. And we started this topic off about stat lines. That is a stat line that won't be matched again this season, that's for sure. Heading into round 5, we've got some undefeated teams and we've got some big clashes coming up this weekend.
Yeah, certainly. So at the top of the ladder at the moment for the women's competition, we've got the Bandits, the Comets and the Falcons all on 4-0. But what's really interesting is that the Bandits and Comets probably haven't been truly tested so far in the comp. And after the Easter break, when we head into round 5, they'll be taking on the likes of Sutherland Sharks. And so with the Opals camp just wrapping up and Easter break, we're expecting to see Loz Nicholson back. And Eliza Fabro from Townsville has already joined the Sharks too. So I think the Bandits will be really tested in round 5. And they also back up and have to play Sydney Comets. So Comets with the likes of Jada Crawshaw and Vanessa Panousis. But they're going to get Shyla Hill hopefully back into the fold. So that's going to be a huge game for round 5.
What do you think someone like Shyla can do, given that she had a very dramatic WNBL season, but she played some great form to help Townsville to that championship?
I think in Shyla's favour, she'll be back in familiar territory. She'll be back with her family. She'll be coached by Shelley Gorman, who, they have a great relationship and know how each other work well. And she'll also have some Flames teammates on her side too. So I think Shyla will slot into the league very easily. She used to play NBL1 East back when it was still called the Waratah Championship competition, and she played for the Sharks. So I think Shyla will come back easily and it will feel like she hasn't even missed a beat.
She's a big boost for the conference, that's for sure. Let's move across to the men's action now. We loved a Gunners update on the NBL1 show last season, but things are a little bit shaky in the nation's capital.
Yes, it might be a little bit not the ideal start for the inaugural NBL1 East Championship holders in the men's division. The Canberra Gunners currently placed 11th on the ladder with a 2-3 record, but they're coming off a big win against the Sutherland Sharks in a controversial call. You can head to Instagram to see whether it was a charge or a block. I'll let you make the call on that. But we talked to one of their former players this week, And it sounds like that there is still a little bit more room for improvement, getting used to everyone's new roles in the team. So I wouldn't count the Gunners out just yet, but they certainly have a lot of work to do in a tight competition.
Well, one team that's got to work early this season is the COE. They're on a 6-zip start, which is incredible, but can it last?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm very interested to see if it can last because they have some outstanding talent, including Ben Henshaw, Alex Tui, Alex Condon. You know, they've already had the taste of the green and gold earlier this year, getting inclusion in a Boomers roster, but the same names are unfortunately going to be graduating from the COE very soon. So it'll be a great opportunity for some of their youngsters to step up, but I'm very interested to see if the quality and the continuity will be able to continue and if their winning streak gets to continue as well.
It's always great to cast our eye across some of the talent that joins us in NBL1 from abroad.
Yeah, certainly in the East competition where I think sometimes we're just like the cousin of the other conferences so far, but this year, a lot of clubs have made a great effort into getting some imported talent for men and women, but particularly for the men's competition. So kicking off with Jameer Coleman, who joins the Albury Wodonga Bandits. And this guy is smooth as liquid smoke. He has great shot selection from anywhere, great elevation, able to finish. So he's already averaging close to 20 points and 10 rebounds a game. So certainly making a strong impact. Then we've got the likes of Markel Beasley from the Sutherland Sharks. And he missed probably 1 or 2 games at the start of the season, I think because of some visa issues. But he's already wasted no time. And he's also averaging 15 and 10 in the league. But this guy has jets in his joints. So he had a huge poster dunk against Glenn Morrison from the Canberra Gunners, aka the Brindabella Beacon, in that last game between the Sharks and the Gunners. And just look out for this guy. Like, he's going to put a hole in the roof pretty soon.
You're putting a hole in the roof with these great descriptions, Jacinta.
Oh, good. And we've also got Chris Bryant from the Inner West Bulls. Now, he's also averaging 15.5 points and just under 8 rebounds a game. And he's also someone that is very versatile, plays both end of the courts very, very well. And I think as he gets used to the league, he's probably just going to get better and better.
Well, some hot starts for a host of players across NBL1 East and for you, Jacinta, on fire to start our NBL1 show for 2023. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to chatting to you each week, and happy calling and happy podcasting to you this round.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Megan. Looking forward to the next one.
Let's focus in on NBL1 Central now, and we'll head to South Australia and chat to our expert on the ground. It's a very warm welcome to Tristan Prentice.
Mitch McCarron's near a quadruple double of 20 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds and 7 steals. Really stole the show last Friday in round 2. On top of that, Anthony Drimmick had 22 points and 11 rebounds. But they were nearly upstaged by a veteran who actually was a development player for the Adelaide 36ers years ago. Turning back the clock was Matt Lysett with 30 points, the most he's had since round 11 against the Rockets in 2022.
Some massive names there, no doubt, will be producing massive performances throughout the season. We will definitely keep a close eye on that one. Let's move on now to the Eastern Mavericks, because they've had a super start as well, and there's a bit of context around this one.
There is. Well, the Eastern Mavericks men haven't won that many games in the last probably 5 years, and probably prior to 2015, but they've actually got a 3-game winning record against the Southern Tigers, and they've chalked up their 3rd win in a row against Southern with a 93-86 win, thanks to new import Jack Hemphill, who I believe is a St. Francis Brooklyn Terrier, who went close to 30 points. Former Inner West Bulls guard Jasper Rentoy flirted with the triple-double. So for the Eastern Mavericks, they do look like a team that's not going to be easy to beat in 2023, Megan, and we're certainly going to see the Eastern Mavericks be extremely competitive this year.
That's what we like to see. Now, we spoke a lot about Alex Dartling on the NBL1 show last year. He did it all and he won it all. Grand Final MVP too, of course, and he's continued his fine form as it spills into 2023.
Absolutely. Well, what a way to start. Unveiling the championship banner at the Mitchell Park Community and Sports Centre in front of the Eastern Mavericks. Interesting note about the Eastern Mavericks is that they have Daniel Ray as coach this year. And Daniel Ray is actually a former South Adelaide Panther himself. So it was a big night for South Adelaide versus Eastern. Starling himself, 36 points and 21 rebounds and 5 assists in their 94-79 win. Stealing is something that Alex Starling does particularly well for his size, often guards the number one player in the team, regardless of what size they are. He's a very mobile player and a huge star of this competition in SA here.
Absolutely. As we move on to the women's side of NBL1 Central now, there's been some great imports and internationals in South Australian State League basketball for a long time, and Nicole Franson appears to be one of those.
Yeah, really exciting player that signed with the Woodville Warriors late in October last year, actually. So only just recently announced, but from the University of Trinity West in Canada, averaged 17.5 points per game, 11.2 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. And she's brought that straight into NBL1 Central. She had a 30-point and 15-rebound game against the Central District Lions. At 6'2", this Canadian centre is looking really good for NBL1 Central.
She sure is. She's going to have a massive year. She's a massive presence, as we've seen already. Now, Michaela Williams was the Halls medalist last season. We know she produced a brilliant campaign. She's already starting to build a very impressive one in 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. The Halls medalist, Michaela Williams, is back. She's had a hot start to the season, as you mentioned, Megan. She had a double-double with 16 points and 19 rebounds last week, and then 18 points and 8 rebounds against the Panthers on Saturday night, and definitely looking like she's in really good Halls medal form. She was spoken to at the NBL1 launch recently and said that one part of the game she really wants to work on is her outside shot. Obviously hasn't taken a huge amount of threes so far in her NBL1 Central career, but I think that's about to change, where she's about to really work hard on that outside game to really make her an incredible threat in this NBL1 Central competition. Michaela Williams is one of the brilliant players to watch in this competition in 2023.
Love hearing that. Players of all levels certainly coming to NBL1 right around the country in all of the 5 conferences with different things they want to work on with their game, improve their game no matter where they are or what level they're playing at outside of NBL1. So really looking forward to seeing her add that continually to her game this season. Now, we've spoken a little bit about family ties on the show today around the country, and there's some family ties in NBL1 Central, but they're not necessarily the familiar names that we know.
100% there, Megan. Sisters stepping out of the shadows is what I've looked at in this round. And Jess Simons, of course, everyone knows her older sister Sam, playing for the Melbourne Tigers in the NBL1 South, of course. Jess Simons actually stepped up to the plate with 20 points and 5 rebounds on the weekend against the North Adelaide Rockets. That North Adelaide team obviously didn't have Lauren Mansfield playing for them over in Singapore, I think it was for 3x3 Asia Cup. And then you look at someone like Maddie Freer, who's stepped out of the shadow of Jordan Freer. And Jordan was actually playing for the North Adelaide Rockets on the weekend as well. So Maddie Freer actually stepped up with 16 points and 14 rebounds. You're going to look at the North Adelaide Rockets and their combination when they get it together. Mansfield, Basham, Freer, Erica Meyer, this Rockets team will be one of the ones to really keep a close eye on in NBL1 Central in 2023.
Well, the Rockets, they're going to be true to their name and explode offensively when they've got all those weapons out there. So looking forward to seeing players like Lauren Mansfield coming back to Australia and NBL1 with a gold medal from the Asia Cup 3-on-3 very soon. Tristan, it's been great to catch up with you. Continue your great work over there. Enjoy the upcoming round, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you so much, Megan. Appreciate it.
19 teams is the biggest conference in the country, so plenty of action as always to go through in round 1.
There was plenty of action on the opening weekend. Let's start with the men's conference because there was a new name that announced himself on the big stage.
Certainly was. Jonathan Lawton for the Ringwood Hawks. I had the pleasure of calling that one down at the Falcons' Nest, the Battle of the Birds. He was terrific. 30 points in the ball game. He's obviously his debut in the league, an import new signing for them in the off-season. He was terrific. Had 20 second half points, 12 in the fourth quarter for the come from behind win. He's going to make some noise this season, Jonathan Lawton. He's quick, agile, tight handles. He can finish in traffic. So one to look out for sure for Ringwood. I think if they go deep in the finals, there'll be a big reason why, Megan.
Well, we love the rivalries, don't we, Liam? I think Battle of the Birds might be the best, the best name going around.
I can't claim that.
There was a nail biter too between Kilsyth and Geelong. Who was the star of that show?
If you kept an eye on the NBL1 socials, you would have seen the Mitch Dealman's game winner on that left wing from 3. That was terrific. The roar from the Kilsyth crowd as well was just awesome. He's a Kilsyth junior. He's a Cobra through and through, and he delivered with no doubt, one of the biggest moments of his career. We all dream of making a 3-point buzzer beater to win the game, and he did just that. It was a high-scoring affair as well, Megan, 97-95. It was the likes of Gabe Hadley and DeMarcus Gatlin for Geelong, who put up some really, really big totals. Hadley had 37 points, 8 of 13 from 3. He was shooting the lights out. Gatlin, 26, but in the end, it was Dealman's and the Cobras who got the job done to start off the right way in round 1.
There's some massive names playing in NBL1 South. DJ Vasiljevic is one of those, coming off back-to-back NBL titles with the Sydney Kings, but his side went down in another one of the local rivalries.
Well, they did, and his NBL teammate with the Kings as well was one of the reasons why Angus Glover, who's a member of that Wildcats team, he's a part of what I think is a really impressive starting 5 group. And the Wildcats, coming off a 17th place finish in 2022, they've added Callum Dalton, spent time with Melbourne United, and obviously Glover as well, to that unit that consists of Owen Foxwell, Josh Sykes, and Sam Short as well. So there's 4 Aussies there with NBL experience to go along with Sykes, who's been one of the sort of premier high flyers of the South now for a couple of seasons. So for me, that starting 5 could see a real resurgence in the Wildcats this year, and to come away with a 10-point victory against a very tough DJ Vasiljevic-led Diamond Valley, it's a good way to start.
And let's move across to the women's action now. We talked about players picking up where they left off in 2022. Well, that was the case for our NBL1 South Women's MVP.
Absolutely. Alicia Froling, what a season she had last year with the Knox Raiders. And unsurprisingly, she started where she left off, as you mentioned, Megan, 37 points, 14 rebounds in 30 minutes as Knox defeated a very young Keilor team, it should be said, by 21 points. But she was terrific. Alicia Froling absolutely dominated the paint by all accounts. Just the one basket from outside the paint, had 9 free throws, and then really just dominated inside, as we said. This Keilor team, though, I mean, almost the entire roster is 23 and under. They had a crack, but Knox and Froling, one to watch.
Let's take a look at the Pioneers now, because they finished 3rd last season, Coach of the Year, and lots of accolades amongst that group. But they've started the season in perfect fashion, and the good news is only going to keep coming for Mount Gambier.
Absolutely. 2-0 road trip into Melbourne to start the season for the Pioneers. It doesn't get much better than that. They've had some athletes that have come in, perhaps somewhat late, being regionally based, obviously players in the WNBL, etc., that weren't able to get there for an extended preseason, but you wouldn't know it the way they played in round 1. They were terrific. The 4-point win over the Sabres, led by Mila Goodchild, who had an absolutely awesome weekend, 2 double-doubles, 26 and 12 on the Saturday night, and then backed it up with 29 and 13 against Nunawading on Sunday Arvo. And let's not forget, Zatina Rakuzo still to join this team. So she obviously had a really long WNBL season, a champion with the Townsville Fire. So we may not see her for a week or two, I'm assuming, but once they add her into the lineup as well, the Pioneers, after finishing 3rd last year, they're going to be in the mix, I think, once again for the championship if they stay fit.
Frightening Z in camp with the Opals at the moment, coming off providing a real contribution in Townsville's WNBL title. I just get the feeling Z is going to rip apart the NBL1 this year, and I cannot wait for that. Now, we've been chatting about rivalries, Liam. It's been a bit of a theme in our conversation this week. Bendigo and Ballarat is one of the biggest going around, the regional arch rivals. One of the key players in NBL1 South has switched from Bendigo back to her hometown Ballarat, and that is Abby Werrell. And she started in fine form with the Miners.
She certainly did, that's for sure. She had a ripping stat line, 30 points, 7 boards, 7 dimes, 5 steals as well, in a dominant victory over Melbourne, 25 points the victor. But that is a big coup for Ballarat, like you mentioned, Megan, coming across from the Braves in the off-season. Of course, this WNBL season led the league in 3-point percentage with 20 attempts or more, shot 52% from long range. So she's coming in with some serious form in the national leagues. And as always, is a star at this level at NBL1. So I'll be keeping an eye on the Ballarat Miners this year because I think Abby Werong is going to have a huge season.
We sure will. And of course, Ballarat and Bendigo face off in Easter Thursday hoops at Ballarat. So looking forward to that. Kicking off Easter weekend. Liam, great job as usual. Happy calling to you this weekend and look forward to catching up with you again next week on the NBL1 show.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks for having me.